Let me talk to you about why I don't lean too much on science. What is this process of science? How do we come to a scientific conclusion? Well, this process goes as follows. First of all, we question. We question what goes on around us. Something is interesting, so we want to know why this happens the way it happens. Why is this grass green? Why do these bees make sound? Why do these animals make so much sound? Why does a tree grow the way it does? These are all questions that we don't have an answer to. So what is the first step we do when we have this question? We research. Now, if there's not any research about this, then we will start to research on ourselves, try to reason why things happen the way they do. If there is research, we will look online what is already known about this phenomena. Maybe we already have an answer there or not. If not, then we go to the next step, which is building a hypothesis. Now, by doing this, we create a thinking system about why this could happen the way it does. After this, we will experiment. We will fix a certain environment so that we can know why does this happen. Can we make this phenomena clear with certain experiments? Now, with this experiment, we receive data. With this data, we will integrate what we've already known. Does this data integrate with what we've already known? Do we get an answer to our first question or not? And after this, we will conclude our data analysis. And if this conclusion is valuable, we will communicate it with other people. This is the scientific process. This goes on and on and on till we get certain answers to our questions. Now, let me go through this process step by step and share my opinion on what's really happening with these steps. So, questioning, pretty straightforward. Doing research, pretty straightforward. The first step I'd like to talk about is creating a hypothesis. In my view, creating this hypothesis is creating a model in our head, a model of reality. Now, this reality doesn't have to work the way it works in our model, in our head, our hypothesis. Most of the time it actually doesn't, but there are already some risks while doing this, which I will talk about now. While creating this model in our head, we are already trying to interpret the reality around us. Now, of course, this is not something we can just bypass or something we can Now, of course, this is not something we can just bypass or skip, or well, this process has to happen because otherwise we won't know what type of experiment to do. We won't know what type of parameters we have to set in. So this part is crucial, but the risk is that we already interpret what's going on around us, therefore already steering how we think nature or reality is. The next step is setting up an experiment. The way I see it, doing an experiment is already denaturing nature. Why? Well, what do we need to do to make a good experiment? What makes a good experiment that is reproducible for different people in different parts of the world? What do we need to do to make this happen? Create fixed parameters. So parameters that don't change, This way we have a controlled environment where we can observe a certain phenomena happening every time the same way. This way we know for sure something is happening the way it is happening with these surrounding. But the crucial risk of doing this experiment is nature has so many parameters that keeps changing. Making fixed parameters is kind of like making nature static, an environment that doesn't change, that doesn't happen in nature, only in the most inorganic places, but that still changes, just takes longer. Let's say a mountain doesn't seem to change. The state of a river doesn't seem to change. The water sure changes, but the state of the river doesn't seem to change. But actually there's a lot of movement going on around there, and these parameters will change. The more complex these systems, the more parameters will change, and the less limits there are actually on creating a fixed environment. So I see doing an experiment as denaturing nature. Now, this will have some specificities, which I will get to in the latest part of this video. But for now, that's my opinion. So then we come to data analysis. Doing an experiment, we receive a lot of data. Now we need to analyze this data to figure out what this data means. The risk in this process is that we choose to let nature fit in our model, or our model fit into nature. Humans, just like me, just like you, have a ego. The ego really likes to be right. So therefore, most humans, maybe all humans, except some very ascended people, don't know. But let's say all humans have a tendency to be right. They want to be right. This ego likes to be right. If we're right, it feels good. We get positive feedback from our surroundings. We feel good about this. If we're wrong, this makes us feel undervalued. This usually comes with a shift in how we see the world, because we thought we were right. If we're wrong, then maybe some part of how we see this world isn't right also. So we have a tendency to be right. When we analyze data and we have this model of what could be going on around us, we want this model to be right. And this is a big risk in science, because when we analyze data, we have a choice. Do we let this model fit, squeeze it into nature, or do we let nature fit into this model? Change some parameters like nature mostly does, and the data will be changed as well. That's difficult to work with. So then we come to a conclusion. What do we do when we come to a conclusion? We make a fact of a model of reality. So we have reality, we created a model, and out of this model, we create a fact. This fact only applies to this model, to this reality. But what we tend to do is letting this fact be a fact overall. We skip the environment that it has come out of, and we apply it to whatever. Now, where do we see this? I'm not going to name any specific examples because I don't want to get into any law case or anything. But you can walk through an aisle in the supermarket, just look at some maybe cornflakes, packages, look at some healthy stuff that seems to say it's healthy, or it's high in this, so therefore it's healthy, or it has this product, or it has this, so therefore it is. And you will see how easily our marketing process likes to grab a fact and just put it on something as if it makes sense in that environment, which it doesn't. This happens a lot. So after that, we communicate. Now, if this stays in the scientific community, it's usually done in the right way. But what mostly happens is you have a scientific paper, some conclusion gets out of it, and then some news thing will make something out of it, and then humans read it and make something out of it. Now, this completely denatured from what it actually is. Doesn't even say anything about the quality of the scientific process. Most humans don't even read that, don't know how to read that. To be honest, me still, I find it difficult and very tiring to go through all that. It takes a lot of time. It's definitely not always worth it, and you only gain a very little amount of knowledge. This being said, I said in the beginning of this video, I will get back to later about two fundamental different ways of doing science. In science, there is hard science and there is soft science. Hard science is done with inorganic materials. Soft science is done with organic materials. Inorganic materials don't change much. There's not much change. Like I said, the mountains, the riverbed, there's not much change going on there. There is change, but it takes a long time for this change to happen. Let's take a look at soft science or organic science. Now, as we know, organic science changes a lot. These plants seem to not change right now, but they change a lot. When we go to organisms like animals, for example, these change a lot. They can move, they can react. There's millions, maybe billions chemical reactions going on within this body. It is highly, highly, highly complex, and parameters are really not easy to fix. So if we do science on inorganic materials, let's say we want to make a bridge, this will be very easily possible. Of course, it's still not necessarily easy, but relatively easy compared to when you want to do science on a human being or a rat or something else, because this changes a lot. These parameters cannot really be fixed, and when we try to fix these parameters, then we are working with a denatured nature. That's not the reality, but a model where we want to get effect out of. So there's a lot of steps in this process which kind of extracted from nature, and we apply it to, we say, yes, this is how it happens. Actually, it doesn't. If it really did work the way we'd like it to work, we would have known a lot more by now, but we don't. There's still a health crisis going on. There's still so much going on that we don't know of. So why don't I like science that much? Why don't I lean on science that much? When it comes to being healthy, staying healthy, health in general, human beings, organisms, soft science, let's say that. The way I feel, health can be really simple. Just have to be able to listen to our bodies. But in this society, we have been programmed to not really do this in a lot of ways. The education system, our heavy focus on intellectual properties, our focus on sports, where we have to achieve, where we have to compete. There's a lot of stuff that makes us not feel in our body, especially not on long term. So for me, the science for organic substances is really, really, really personal, can only really be done by you, on you, me, on me. And this has to be done with feeling, a lot of feeling. And not just feeling right now, but feeling on a long term. When I eat this food, how will I feel when I wake up and when I do it again at a later point in the week? These are the kind of questions we can ask ourselves. These are the things we can focus on ourselves. This is what will make you learn about your body, your behavior, yourself. And then you can apply simple principles to your own body instead of just listening to this diet, that diet, that diet. Oh, this works so well. Oh, meat's not good for you. Oh, meat's really good for you. You should only eat meat. We can't make stuff up of this organic science. We can't. We have to listen to ourselves, have to be in conversation with ourselves, because like I said, we change a lot. What works for us now may not work for us in 10 years. We are constantly adapting. That's why in soft science we work with complex adaptive systems, and in hard science we work with complex systems. So it's not that I don't like science. I think science is really good. I just think the way it's done right now is not necessarily the best way, and especially not for when it comes to health in general. That's just what I wanted to share with you. Remember, we are morphing beings. We either morph or we die. So let's just morph well.